What's going on, folks? How are you? It is good to see you. Good Saturday afternoon to everybody. I know that you guys are just coming in, and it has been quite some time since Sir Hale Speaks has done a live. But listen, we're going to do something real quick. I've got an idea that I want to share based off of a lot of the coaching that I've been doing. I just want to share a couple of things with everybody who's on here. So I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to join in, to tap in, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. And then I'm going to give us all some time back so that we can enjoy this beautiful Saturday. Well, salute to everybody. I'm glad that you guys are here. Again, it's been quite some time. Typically, yeah, typically I do stuff, and you guys will see me in StreamYard, and I plan some shows. But today I'm doing something slightly different because I want to share a particular lesson that a particular thing that I've been seeing and conducting coaching. There's some things I want to talk about. So we're going to get into that today. But before we do this, it's been a minute. If you guys would do me a favor, hit the like button. It's number one thing. You guys see that we're already at 60,000 subscribers. My goal before this year is out is I want to be over 100K. So every time we hit the like button, every time we share, all these things make a big difference. So if you'd be so kind to hit the like button, hit the love button, I would be so appreciative of it. Salute to Eugene Steele. Salute to Red Lipstick Vibes. Salute to Anye. It is good to see you. I won't be on here for very long, but I think that what I'm going to share is going to be very important. And I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this. If you guys have noticed, if you've been paying attention to what I've been posting, you see that my message has kind of changed a little bit. Where 2022, 2023, I'm going straight in. After living a little bit and having some conversations, my perspective on a lot of things are beginning to, I won't say that they're changing because my stance on relationships, I believe in tradition, all that stuff still stands. But I've got some more perspective on some things that I want to address, particularly as I look at the decline of successful relationships, and I mean meaningful relationships. I'm not talking about those we're just going to be together because we don't want to go nowhere and don't nobody else want us. I mean productive, successful ones. So I want to talk to you about a couple things. So the name of this particular stream is "You Care Too Much." If you look at the title, "You Care Too Much," and there's a few dots. And I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this. I've noticed over these last few years, particularly 4 to 5 years, we have hyper focused on trying to get people to give us a response and a reaction based off of what we do. If you guys notice that, if you think about this, what I'm talking about in perspective, think about the advice we've been giving women. We tell women to do X, Y, and Z, and if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to get a man, and you deserve X, Y, and Z. Just think about that. If you look a certain way, if you dress a certain way, then you could demand certain things. Come on, sprinkle, sprinkle. Y'all know what I'm talking about. On the other side of that, look at what we've been telling men. If you just go and you get this amount of money and you get, you dress in this particular way and you drive this kind of car, then you can pick whatever woman you want. And just look at what we've done. While some of those things speaks to the human experience where we do have to have something to catch somebody, the truth is, if we're talking about meaningful relationships, let me put this out here. Fellas, let me put this out here. If your money is the thing that attracts her to you, she'll never be your woman. It's impossible for a woman who genuinely loves you to come into your life and to love the man that you are when the basis of her being in your life is predicated on the things you can do for her. Now, I want to make this very clear. I'm not saying that she should not expect you to do certain things. Expect you to be kind to her, expect you to show her love. If you guys are someplace, expect you to protect her. What I'm suggesting, though, is if you think that your money can buy or purchase a woman with morals and ethics, I'm telling you, you're going to find yourself very disappointed. Right. And the same thing with you ladies. If you think that you can get enough injections and wear, revealing clothes, and that's going to be enough to attract a man that's going to love the woman that you are today and who you're becoming, you're going to be disappointed because that's not the way meaningful relationships blossom. All right, does this make sense, everybody? So, with that being said, I'm talking about this because I think that we have, in some way, contributed to a culture who cares too much about the wrong things. And I want to talk about the effects of what this does. So, guys, give me a few minutes. If you guys are in here, let me know where you're listening from. I want to make sure that I show some love to everybody who's watching. Let me know where you're listening from. I want to make sure I show some love to everybody who is watching. All right, so a couple things. One of the things I notice in doing coaching, and this is for both men and women, is that there is this general sense of insecurity that a lot of people have about themselves. Like a lot of times, y'all be seeing people online or even celebrities, and the assumption is because they project a certain way or they present a certain way, the assumption is that these people must be confident and they can't be insecure because of their beauty or what they have or their status. If you haven't paid attention, most people, well, I won't say most, but I'll say a lot of people are very insecure with themselves. If you guys really pay attention to the way people conduct themselves, people who really are internally secure with who and what they are, they do not focus on getting outside validation for who they are. They do not do this. It's typically people who are fiending for validation that they'll go and they'll even go against their morals and their ethics so that you can validate a particular part of them that wants to feel a certain way. They might not even be all that. But everything that they do, they orient themselves to get a reaction out of people, to speak to an insecurity that they have. And I'll say this, and I say this often, this is particularly true in a lot of women. Like I see a lot of women who they on the outside, it's like they have it all made up. Like they have it all together. Like they look good, they present well. But if you start having a conversation and start talking about things that actually matter, you'll start to see just how insecure a lot of our ladies are because in our culture, this is just real stuff. We judge a woman based off of how beautiful she is. So the less attractive she is, the more she has to have other characteristics that make her valuable to the circle and society that she's in. I'm not talking about something I made up. I'm just telling you how it is. So if she's less attractive, she has to be well spoken. She has to be very mannerable. She has to compensate. And this sounds crazy, but you guys understand what I'm talking about. She has to compensate on another end for what she lacks in terms of what society deems as beautiful. Juxtapose this by a woman who is absolutely gorgeous and stunning by most people's definition. We just assume that she has character and ethics, particularly if we don't have conversations that dig into her character and to her mindset. We just make assumptions. And so what she could get away with, the person we deem as less attractive can't get away with. And with this, we've just explained why there were so many women who were insecure. Because if a woman defines herself by how she looks outwardly, by her looks, by her beauty, by her pulchritude, then it's only a matter of time before that starts to decline. And every woman who's watching this, if you're young, I want you to understand that the height of your beauty in your 20s, it's not going to always be like that. It doesn't matter how much Botox you use, doesn't matter what you eat, how much you exercise. If you are blessed to live long enough, your body is going to change. And so I think that this is a part that we haven't discussed. This is a part we haven't discussed. The insecurity in a lot of our women. This is why we see such a big explosion on social media. I've seen y'all, tell me if I'm lying about this. I have seen women on their Instagram profiles, in the little description, it'll say, God first, loving person, Howard morals. And then you look on the Instagram and she done shown everything. Or they'll do those posts where it's a post where they're revealing everything. And then they take it down. Well, why do you think this is? It's because women who we've raised to hinge who and what they are, specifically on their beauty, they don't have any other experience. And so if they're not getting attention on that, it's very difficult for them to find meaning and value in life. Juxtapose this with men. Men have a very difficult time because if we don't do something to make ourselves useful and to ingratiate ourselves in family and society in a meaningful way, then it's very difficult for us to even make sense of why we are even alive. I want you guys to think about what I'm saying. If a man doesn't ingratiate himself and become something valuable where people need him for something, most men, it's very difficult for him not to slip into depression and to question and contemplate why does he even exist. And so you see insecurity. So we've kind of coached people into that. So men, go make as much money as you can, which I want you to be successful. Women, look as good as you can. And then we start to see that when we start pairing women who look good with men who have stuff, those relationships fall because what we've done is we've got two people coming together who have built who they are on things that are fleeting. So you can see why they're insecure. All right, guys, if you guys are with me on here and you guys are with me and understand what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments. You guys see what we're doing here? He has to make all this money and appear to be a certain way. You guys can see this in the dating pool. No matter, I saw a reel of somebody. She said that $100,000 is broke. She said somebody making $100,000 is broke. She didn't say they're off to a good start of making something. It's because we've made it so convenient to look at a person and we judge what they are and what value they have with what they earn. And here's the truth, y'all. If you live in America, you don't have any room to be arrogant. If you live in America, you don't have any room to be arrogant. We've been blessed and fortunate to be in a time where other people have sacrificed their lives. Other people have done the hard work. They've gone on marches. Laws have been changed. We're reaping the benefit from what other people have done. Let's just be honest for a second. A lot of us who are arrogant talking about your self-made, no, your success hinges on the sacrifices of other people who have actually been assaulted for fighting for the rights that we so freely enjoy. You don't have room to be arrogant. As a matter of fact, I think that all of us should take a moment and be appreciative of any and everybody who was going before us and fought for laws and freedom so that we can enjoy and we can actually go chase the bag. You ain't got a reason to be arrogant. You don't have any reason to be arrogant. If you're beautiful, you don't have any reason to be beautiful. That had nothing to do with you. That was the DNA of both of your parents coming together, right? If you just so happen to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, even though you've done the work and you should take some pride into that, you have to understand that you live in a country that allows for free enterprise and for entrepreneurship and for the advancement of oneself to express your dreams and your goals. If you think about this in context, you start to realize that what you are is not because you've been so great. It is a combination of what people have done to make life as good as it is for us. Does that make sense, everybody? This is important to say. So let me deal with the men for a second, then I'm going to deal with the ladies. So a lot of our men, we've taught our men to define themselves by how much money they earn. Now, this is coming from a person who is successful at life. If you define yourself by how much money you have, there's going to come a point in your life where you're going to need something other than money that money cannot buy. I don't care how much money you earn, your money, fellas, listen to me carefully. Your money cannot get a woman to love you. Your money cannot get a woman to submit to you. Your money cannot buy peace. It can buy quiet, but it cannot buy peace. Quiet is the state of not hearing anything. Peace is the state of your mind. So if we're teaching men that what you have is the prerequisite to all you want in life, and we're not also teaching the intrinsic value that men should have, even if they lost their job, because of who you are and your character and the fact that you are a stable person, even if you lose your job today or lose a home or a car, if you lose a relationship, because you are you have what it takes to go get it all back again. Because what you are is not predicated on what you have earned or the job you have or the car you're driving. Who you are, matter of fact, what you get is a result of who you are and not the other way around. We've got to start teaching our boys this. Second thing, we have to stop teaching men that if you as soon as you make a certain amount of money, you can go pick the woman you want without detailing the fact that just because you earn a certain amount of money, there is no guarantee that that is going to win you a woman who's going to love you if you lost it all. I want you guys to get this. Now, this is stuff that if you're in your 20s, this will make very much sense at this point because we have it's the pride of life, it's our youthfulness, our immaturity. But all the money doesn't make a person stay there with you. I mean, from a genuine place of care and love, if you get sick or something happens to you or you suffer from an injury and you're no longer able to do what you were doing, that attracted them. Right. So me and I want you to be successful. I want you to earn. I want you to be your very best. Push yourself every day. But I want you to stop defining yourself by your performance to others. And I want you to start recognizing that you have value within yourself. So if the market turns, right, and your industry collapses, your confidence doesn't collapse with the industry. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, everybody? Because I think this is why so many people are insecure, because they're placing their value into the hands of institutions and other people. And it's impossible for somebody to have enough strength to guard your self-esteem when they're struggling with their own. Okay? So the insecurity, ladies, the same thing with you. I want you to be beautiful. You should be out, your hair should look nice, keep your nails done, smell good, work out, read. But I want you to stop defining yourself just based off of your exterior. You're going to want somebody who's going to love you when you start getting wrinkles, right? And if you define yourself and think that you're going to always be 25, you're going to always be 30 something, you're going to have a very a very depressing time as you get older, because the attention you get when you're younger, it's going to start tapering off. And again, if your self-esteem is predicated on your youthful vitality and beauty, and you don't have anything else to pull on, there is no man that can come in your life and make you happy. Because happiness is not the result or consequence of what somebody else is doing. Like, that happiness has to come from your sense of well-being and your sense of self-worth. Okay, that makes sense, everybody? Let me get to a couple things. So here's a couple things in coaching that I wanted to bring up after I've set the table. A couple things, everybody, take note of this. You cannot love somebody into loving you back. This is for romantic relationships. This is for family. This is for any relationship. You cannot love someone into loving you back. You cannot do this. You cannot do this, and you're going to frustrate yourself if you try. If you have ever done this, I'm telling you to stop it, because you trying to love someone in order for them to love you back comes from a place of insecurity. You're doing something hoping that they validate what you're doing because it does something for your self-esteem. You cannot love someone into loving you back. All right. Now, I got some people watching here. Can anybody relate to what I'm talking about? Have you ever tried to love, whether this is a parent or family or friend or, somebody you were married to, and you thought that the more you poured on, the more you give, the more you poured on thick, that they were going to see your effort and say, you know what, I'm going to reciprocate what they're doing and give them that love back. And it never happened. It's because you can't give love and use that love as a way to get that back, because love is genuine. If someone genuinely loves you, you'll never have to beg for it. You will never have to bargain for it. You won't have to campaign for it, because that love comes freely. I'll give you an example. You can have a friend that you've known for 10 years, and you never really feel that genuine love and care there. And then you can meet somebody based off of a situation you've dealt with, and within a year's time, the level of trust and love that's been developed in a year can rival the experience you've had with somebody in 10 years. That's because love is not something that's manufactured. You can't give it and try to love them into loving you. That love has to be genuine. And if you have to force it, you will always have to force it. All right. So I want y'all to avoid this. If you're going to love, I want you to love from a pure heart. You give that love, You give it from a genuine place, and it's a seed for you. And if you're not getting that love back, I don't want your self-esteem and sense of self-worth to hinge on what they're not giving back, because maybe either they're not supposed to love you, or maybe you're supposed to adjust so that you're not constantly giving your heart over to someone who's incapable of giving you what you need. You cannot love somebody into loving you back. Number two, you cannot like somebody into them liking you back. Now, this is a big one. Like this is interesting because like everybody talks about, I don't care who likes me. Y'all lying. It'll be a very terrible thing for you to be in a relationship, in a family, have friends, to do great work with people you don't like. Everybody to some degree or other cares about that like. But there's a lot of us, because you're insecure, you try to like people. So you overdo things, you compliment, like you over support, you overgive, because you're trying to show your feelings and hope that they reciprocate that back to you. You cannot like somebody into liking you back. And here's my question for you. Why do you care so much? You know what I mean? Like, why do you? I want you to think about that. Why do you care so much about who likes you and who doesn't like you? Where does that come from? You know what I mean? Who told you that someone liking you or not liking you is prerequisite for you to be successful? Where does that come from? Oftentimes, you'll find out that in your inner circle, people who had important relationships with you often made you feel like your worth was tied to their like or dislike of you. And a lot of you, even though you're 20 and you're 30 and you're 40, you walk around like that. So if somebody says something about you, you completely lose character because they had an opinion about you, or they don't listen. We too grown for that. Whether they like you or not, it has not put any money in your pocket, right? It has not paid your bills. It has not came to, ain't nobody ever had like to come visit you in difficult times. So while it's healthy to care about these things, if you care too much about these things, it could do you some damage. Okay. Third thing is, watch this. You can't expect the same loyalty from you from somebody else when they have no track record of that. Now I'm saying this because a lot of people are loyal to relationships, and they think that by sheer they stick through anything, even if their boundaries are being crossed, even if they're being disrespected, even if their needs are being ignored. They think that just by standing 10 toes down, that the person that they're with, family, friendship, relationship, they're going to look at your loyalty and say, you know what, I should be loyal too. Again, if you have to bargain for someone's loyalty, this is what I'm telling you. I want y'all to get this. If you're bargaining and campaigning for someone to be loyal, that speaks to their character. Loyal people are going to be loyal people. You get what I'm saying? Like, loyal people are going to be loyal people. Like, you can't bargain with somebody not cheating on you. You can't bargain with somebody being faithful to you. You can't bargain these kind of things. It's in their character. If they don't cheat, it's not because you've been so great. It's part of their standard. This is just who they are. And if you're going to be in any relationship, you never want to be in something where their behavior is predicated on what you do or what you don't do. Because if that's the case, all it takes is one major blow up, and all the loyalty that they've developed goes down the toilet because their character is predicated on your performance. You don't want to be in any relationship like this, right? Ladies, this is why it's important when you hear men saying, a lot of women say, I need a man who can handle me. And you hear men run from that. It's because what you're telling me that your behavior is predicated on how I perform. And let's just say I'm going through a bad season in my life, and I'm really going through it. I'm having a difficult time. I just lost a loved one. You know, I've had to find a new career. I've got to do something different. And I go through a season of my life where I'm not who I'm normally am for the first few weeks. You're telling me that because I'm going through something, that you're going to treat me with less respect. You mean to tell me I don't get to have a human moment and go through my stuff without also being compounded with the worry of you not acting right? This is why we run away. If if I can't trust that you're gonna be sweet and understanding, even when there's situations you don't understand, then what's the purpose of me having somebody with me to go through difficult times if you're gonna contribute to the stress I'm already under? Is that making sense, everybody? What's the point of somebody? What's the point of you being with someone if they can't lean on you when they're having a difficult time? What's the point of you being in their life if you compound the stress when you should be the person they go to for relief? You know what I mean? They in your presence, you compound the stress, and they have to put what they're going through in the back pocket to address your feelings and your concerns, when sometimes they just need you to be a good listener in a support system, and to, this gonna sound crazy, to love them and understand them as they get back to themselves. You guys feel me on that? So this is why if a woman says, I need a man to handle me, that's not taken lightly, because what you're saying is your behavior is predicated on what I do. And it may be your perception, it may not even be reality. It's the same thing with women. Like, if you guys hear that statement where, if a man is walking in his masculinity, she'll naturally fall in her femininity. Let's reverse that. Guys, let's reverse that for a second. I want you to go with me for a second. Just think about how this sounds. A woman goes to a man and they're having a conversation, and she says, as long as you're walking in your masculinity, I'll be naturally feminine. This, I mean, sounds good. You hear sparkles and fairies and butterflies. Sound really good. Now let's reverse that. Let's reverse it. Let's say the man said this. Let's say he looked at his woman and just with full confidence and just eye contact. And he said, babe, as long as you feminine, I'ma naturally be masculine. I want you to think about this. Think about how that conversation goes down. If a man looks at his woman, I'm talking about, eyes, he looked at her, he's saying this. He said, baby, if you were feminine, if you were soft and nurturing, I feel safe to be masculine. Think about the kind of attacks and scrutiny he will come under if he said, because what he's saying is that his masculinity is predicated on the performance and on the behavior of somebody else, and you never give anybody that power. It's the same thing with our ladies. No one should have any control over how feminine you are, because if you really are that feminine, you wouldn't get with somebody you couldn't be feminine with. Like, femininity isn't unwise. It's not weak. It's strategic. You know how you are and what you need. And true femininity is attracted to real masculinity. And there is no wiggle room in that. Right? So if you find yourself saying this and you find yourself attracting men who you have to babysit or you have to coach, and you feel like you're the dominant one, well, I don't want you to spend too much time talking about how weak those men are. And this is not me coming at you. This is me giving you some real advice. If you find yourself with men who are not ambitious, who rely on your decision making, well, that's likely because you exude a masculine energy. And if you exude masculine energy, you're going to attract men who come from that environment where their mother had to make most of the decisions. And so you are just an extension of what he's already familiar with. And then the same thing with the men. If you naturally attract domineering, controlling women, then you don't want to spend too much of your time looking at them and judging them. You have to take a look at yourself and really ask yourself, why do you keep on attracting something that you don't want? And what you'll find is there is something that you have to work on within yourself. Chat, are y'all with me? Is this making sense? Is it making sense? Okay, the next thing is, you can't logic somebody into doing right by you. If you guys notice, a lot of the conversations we have, these arguments come from an emotional perspective, right? It starts off emotional, and then you have the people who are trying to be rational. Like, in a highly emotionally driven conversation, your logic is just going to fall on deaf ears, because they're not in a position to hear logically. So logic is not just the argument. Logic is the timing, right? So if you're in a relationship and someone is in a particular mode where they're not thinking clearly, they're not thinking from a rational perspective, you trying to logic them into hearing you, it is going to heighten the anger and the animosity. You see what I'm saying? You can't logic somebody into listening to you. You can't appeal to their conscience if they are in an emotional state. You have to sometimes let them fizzle out and burn, and then use your logic to find a more reasonable time to have a conversation if it's warranted. This is one of the things that I see between men and women. In my coaching, I notice that women come in, and this is again, this is not a man versus woman. This is just experience, emotionally driven, and this is not a bad thing. This is just what it is. Men come in logically, and so he's trying to give a structure to her emotional thinking, and she's trying to pull him down into her emotions. And instead of them utilizing where both of or where each other are respectively, he tries to pull her to a logical place, she tries to pull him to an emotional place, and it becomes this tug of war because instead of both of them developing the skills to hear each other from where they're coming from, the conversation devolves into you stupid, or you're emotional, or you think you smarter, you don't know nothing. Because we don't understand that just because they're emotional doesn't make them wrong, and just because he's logical doesn't make him right. In order for communication to be effective, she has to be willing to understand his mind frame without trying to change him to feel and agree with her. And he has to stop trying to make her logical to agree with him, and instead try to understand where each other is coming from, and then let wisdom do what wisdom does best. Does that make sense? So, guys, particularly men who are listening to this, if you're talking to women in relationships, don't get frustrated when they don't see it the way you do, because you have had all your life to be a man, and society forces us to be logical and punishes us if we don't. Most women have been cultured to be emotional, and if they're logical, it's logical, but it's unreasonable. So we've got to give each other some grace and understand our perspectives. Otherwise, conversations cannot be productive if she's trying to pull him down into her world. And if she pulls him down into her world, he has to submit, deny his perspective to make her happy, or vice versa. If communication is going to be effective, ladies, you got to hear him with respect. Don't try to turn him into your girlfriend. And then when he doesn't talk on your level, you go find an emotional man who agrees with everything you say because he's trying to get some, and then think that that's a real man until he get what he wants, and then he's moved on to the next thing. And you realize that you had a man all along. Ladies, don't do that. If you have a logical man, allow his structure and his logic to help refine your perspective on things, because it just makes you a better woman. And then the same thing with the brothers. Sometimes the emotions our women have are not bad. It can be irrational, but it's not bad. And if we find a way to communicate and understand, we become very, very articulate and more well-rounded when we have conversations with the opposite sex. Can we agree to that, y'all? Right? Can we agree to that? So you can't appeal to someone's conscience in order to change them into what you want. You have to show some understanding there. And I'm seeing couples break up, marriages are on the rocks because people never learn how to talk. Not even talk, they never learn how to listen. It's one thing I see like that happens so often, is that when a woman is speaking what she feels, the way that men operate is we go into fix it mode. So if a woman communicates that there is an issue she's having, well, we are thinking about the solution, and we want to give her steps 1 through 4 to resolve it. And we're moving into the resolution phase before we have clearly identified and articulated the actual issue. Does that make sense? And then, ladies, the same thing is with you. If your man is communicating because you think you know him, right? You over talk and you finish his sentences without letting him communicate what he's saying. And sometimes you miss it, even though you kind of know what he's going to say. It's almost disrespectful to think that he can't formulate his own thoughts and communicate them, and it turns out to be disrespectful, and then we start losing points that need to be addressed because we've learned how to speak our mind, and we've become comfortable with interjecting and interrupting, and we don't have the patience and the humility to sit back, to listen, to understand, simply because we love the person we're with. Okay, so we're all going to work on this communication. We're all going to work, everybody, we're going to work on communication, because we don't have it. It is a sad thing to be in your 30s and 40s still arguing about things, about lessons we should have learned in our 20s. Okay, let me give you a couple more and then we're going to be out of here. um, Insecurity leads to anxiety in often cases, and this anxiety manifests itself in the fear and some of the decisions we make based off of fear and incomplete information. So let's take communication again, for example. If we don't have good communication, and in our conversations, we never come to not only an understanding of the issues, but to a reasonable resolution, and we continue to have problems, we continue to argue, well, that's going to naturally create an insecurity in the foundation of the relationship. And then if you love them, if you love them and care about them, once anxiety has enough time to germinate and to fester and grow, then this moves into anxiety, and unconsciously or consciously you start preparing for your exit, and everything that the other person does or says that is not consistent with how you want the relationship to be, it to you is an example, or it is an indication that this relationship is over. Now, consider this: you guys could just talk and listen and understand each other and then resolve. But in the absence of great communication, in the absence of mutual understanding, you're forced to deduct your own meaning from stuff, which leads to insecurity, which leads to anxiety and fear, and you start making fear-based decisions. So you start talking to people and relying on people and engaging with people who you probably shouldn't be with to supplement what's going wrong in your relationship. All right? Cheating. Okay. So instead of you cheating, which is not helpful, and what I've learned, you can go from one person to the next. If there's a lesson you're supposed to learn, you're just going to take that failed lesson to another relationship and going to fail in the same area. Like, you can't escape life lessons that you got to learn. It doesn't matter who you're with. You cannot escape and think that marrying a new person, getting you a second wife, a second husband, you can even assume that going to a different place, a different geographical location, is going to be the solution if it's a lesson that you have to learn within yourself. I say this because there's a lot of people who didn't get these lessons from their father or their mother, and you just winging it in life. And you keep on having failed relationships, failed marriages, failed friendships. It's just failure all along until you get to the place where you feel like you don't need nobody. No, that's a failure response. Anybody who's successful understands that you don't get through this life and become successful. You don't even live a whole long time with that mindset that you don't need nobody. No, do the work you need to do, because if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, you want something, but they want something too. And if it's going to be a relationship that works and that's worth working for, then it's got to be there has to be some reciprocity. Okay, and the last thing, so without the proper communication, it leads to insecurity, it leads to anxiety, and then here's the big part that I want to leave on, is that when there's insecurity, there's anxiety, it can lead to you being manipulative. And this is why I told you earlier that you can't love somebody into loving you. You can't like them into liking you. So when genuine communication, genuine care, genuine affection, when that's absent, but you don't want to leave, you start trying to be manipulative. So you will start trying to make them jealous. You will start withholding, right? This is a big thing that happens with so many couples. You'll start withholding the actual ingredients that make the relationship work. So instead of giving affection, now you give them the cold shoulder. Instead of giving them communication, you give them silence, right? Instead of giving genuine love, compassion, and empathy, you take away those things from them, but then you might give it to other people who are less needing of those, because now you're assuming that your behavior is going to force them to conform to what you want them to do. So your actions are a punishment. You're not acting from your value system. You're not acting from a particular place of integrity. There is some part of you that thinks that if you do this or don't do this, they're going to shape up and get right. And so you become manipulative. And you got to avoid this. You have to avoid being manipulative, because anytime, listen, what you control, you have to control. So if you have to control their love, you'll have to control their love. If you have to control the peace, you have to control the peace. If you have to manipulate, like if you do this, the amount of energy it takes to be responsible for keeping up the manipulation and that control, like it's enough to make you say, I don't even want this. There's no purpose of me being with this person, because the effort it takes to just manage it keeps you from even enjoying it, right? So in relationship, everybody, I'm going to conclude with this, that if you're going to be in anything, you can't care so much about the wrong things that it distracts you from doing the things that are needful for your relationship to work. I'm 100% in belief that many of the marriages that have ended in divorce, they ended in divorce because everybody cared about the wrong thing and then didn't do the work it took to make what they had successful. Like particularly if you are affluent, you got a certain amount of looks, you're in an environment where everybody just do what they want to do. Stuff that could work won't work. And if you're really honest and look back at why it didn't work, you'll start to see where things could have been improved. And because that's not how we were or how we are cultured, we don't do those things. And then our relationships fall into ruin, because she doesn't want to yield and to be better and to give, because she fears that it's not going to be reciprocated. And then he doesn't do it because, he's afraid he's going to be rejected. And all we doing is having sex, making babies, and then replicating this level of dysfunction in our new relationships. So I hope that this makes sense to everybody, because a lot of us, we care too much about the wrong things, and we're not giving the attention necessary to the things that actually matter. Okay. Travel One, listen, so if you're going to be on Sir Hale Speaks platform, listen, I'm very grateful for everybody. But we're moving from the whole black men versus black women conversation. I am over that conversation. And I mean it from this perspective. It's not that I won't speak about the division we have, but if we're going to speak on the division, we can't make progress by simply blaming one side or the other. And I think that, and this is for everybody, I think one of the points that get lost in these conversations is that if we focus too many conversations on one side, the assumption is that we're in a war. It's equivalent. Think about this. Think about this. So think about there are two houses standing next to each other. One house is on fire, and then the other house, a couple of windows are broken. Now, both of them got problems. So it's probably going to take a little bit more time for us to extinguish the fire than it is for us to fix the windows. Both things require some work. But I think that what we do is, by sheer volume of conversations, we assume that this must be a war, and it's simply not that. It's not a war. It's not a war if we're both trying to win at the same things. It's only a war if you are trying to convince me that my experience with you is not what it is, and I'm doing the same thing with you. It's only a war then. It cannot be a war if we're both attacking the issue instead of each other. So we're, like I said, we're on this particular platform, we're done with the it's black men versus black women, because in my own experience, a lot of us, we operate under that mindset because that's what we keep going. Like we don't offer understanding, we don't offer compassion. And if my sister tells me that she has an issue with me, well, based off of the volume of stuff I've already heard, I make her pay for stuff that it might even be relating to her. And if we're being truthful, a lot of our women do the same thing. They're just completely closed off to any kind of criticism because of the volume of these conversations. And very few people take the time to ask, and they've been talking about relationships for a long time. They've been talking about divorce for a long time. How many people are actually honest enough to say, well, is it justified? To really ask this question, is it justified? And since question, since you brought it up, I want you to understand that when we talk about Black relationships, we're talking about centuries of trauma. We're talking about the absence of Black fathers. We're talking about the programming of our women to believe that they don't need men, particularly their men, and that their own career pursuits and independence trump the family structure in order. You talk about men who we've seen so much disrespect in. Our concerns and our needs have been neglected to the place where we're saying we're going overseas, and instead of our women hearing to understand us and we understanding our women, it's like we're so busy trying to get one person to see one side, and it's typically a lot of our sisters. Anytime a man brings up something, and notice we're not bringing up multiple things. These are the same issues we're dealing with. And I notice a lot of our sisters, and this is just the truth. The number of conversations, even if the conversations are consistent. So if we're talking about one thing 10 times, a lot of women hear 10 and think we're talking about 10 different things, right? So this is why it's always a problem. This, if you ever hear an argument, you hear a lot of our sisters say, "You always complaining about something. It's always something with you. It's always," and most men are like, "No, it's not always something. What it is, it's the same thing we've been talking about." And I'm frustrated because I'm repeating myself to you. So you hear what I'm saying? This is why I said we have to learn how to hear and listen. Because if we don't, we'll assume that the other person is complaining, particularly if we don't ask the question, is what they're saying justified? Right? So, ladies, before you say a man, all they do is complain, ask yourself, is it justified? Is there a reason why they're saying this? Is it sometimes where people go overboard? Absolutely. But we're done downplaying the issues, y'all. We are done downplaying what's going on. We talk about things that matter to us. And I think that a lot of our people don't recognize this. If a man is talking about something, it's because a man doesn't waste his breath on somebody he doesn't love, right? A man doesn't waste his breath on someone or subject or something he doesn't care about. And I would hope that our women understand that. We talk about relationships because we love very deeply, and we understand how necessary functional, healthy relationships are, not only on our individual mental health, but for our children as well. I'll add to this that as men, we can become so focused on the women who are getting it wrong that we can't see the women who are working to get it right. Right? I'll tell you why I say this. Like when you guys saw me come out and I started to really do work in 2022, I mean, I came out swinging. You know what I'm saying? I came out because my focus was on addressing a problem that I saw. And when I first started in 2022, you talking about getting cussed out. You know what I mean? We started getting cussed. Listen, I've been called everything you could think of. Just yesterday, I was called. Your arrogance is just deep. And I'm like, I'm not. You ain't saying I'm wrong, no, right? So as I've matured though, I don't spend time on women or people for that matter who just want to fight and argue. I'm a grown man. I don't have time to waste breath on people who just want to argue. You're not about to raise my blood pressure, not about to do that. And then with that, and me telling the truth about things, I have won the respect of a lot of our women. So I coach women, right? Some of the women have started off with, you ain't, you just arrogant, you think you know all that. Who made you the spokesman? You must be so and so. And I've learned something. I don't go back and forth with personal attacks. I've, it's been a very difficult thing, but it's hard to sustain a level of success if I'm reacting every time somebody has a negative opinion about me with limited information. That's not logical. So instead of me doing that, now there's a part of me. I'm from Illinois, from Shot from Shot Town. There's a part of me. If you want to roast, we can do it. You understand what I'm saying? But if my goal is to do good work, then criticism comes with the territory. And I don't get to divorce myself from criticism if my goal is to drive impact. So, what I've done, instead of me just going back and forth with the women, because what they're doing, a lot of them aren't even responding to me. They're responding to anything that sounds like what I'm talking about. They're dealing with their own stuff. And I don't want to add to that. So instead of me going back and forth with my sisters, I try to insert some understanding and I give them an opportunity to either continue with their lack of understanding and their lack of respect. And then if they take that and continue after I have opened it up and I've neutralized the intensity, well, then that's who she is. And I've got to accept that that's how she is. But as a man, there's a certain way that I can diffuse the situation. Because again, a lot of them are watching my content with the assumption that I'm attacking women. And then when I tell them I've been married for 17 years, together with my wife for 20 years. You see what I'm saying? Like, as soon as I say it, it's like, what are you going to say now? Like, what are you going to say now? I'm married 17 years, 20 years together. We in this, oh, by the way, and she's my marketer. What you got to say about this? And then it neutralizes it. Listen, ladies, a man telling you the truth is not bashing. You have to, if you are a feminine woman with a man who cares about you, whether this is your husband, your brother, your father, criticism is not an attack. Men only correct something they care about. If a man doesn't offer you perspective and direction, he does not care about you. So all of you ladies who think that these men in your inbox calling you beautiful and hey queen, they're only interested in getting what they want from you. There's no investment there. Real men who care about, and when I say real men, I'm talking about mature men who have grown into themselves. We invest in what we care about. Ladies, I want you to get this. So if you got a man who's telling you, ladies, a lot of our women have an issue with apologizing when they're wrong. And if your first inclination is to argue, this ain't all women, you're not ready to grow. You can't love somebody and not be open to constructive criticism that could help strengthen your relationship. You love yourself. You love your need. You love your want of the relationship, but you don't love that man. If you loved him, you would hear him and take his advice if it's going to improve the quality of your relationship, right? So, ladies, if your man, if he's telling, or any man, it would behoove you to listen because a lot of y'all are arguing. All right, I don't want to get too graphic on here, but a lot of you are arguing, and the happy marriage statistics are not growing as quickly as you buying products to supplement the lack of masculinity in your home. All right, so what you want? Do you want to you want to go another 10, 20 years doing it your way and keep on having fair relationships? Or do you want to actually take advice and not take the immature way out to say that you're being bashed? How can it be bashing if you don't even understand what he was saying? Y'all answer me that, y'all. How can it possibly be bashing if you don't even understand where he's coming from? It can't be bashing if he hasn't even got his sentences out because you cut him off. You pre-rejected the advice. It can't be bashing. The truth is, a lot of our women, we haven't cultured them to hear constructive criticism without them questioning their very existence as women. And so content like mine who hits hard, it'll shock your system at first. And then you start to listen and you start to realize, I'm not trying to attack you. If you say you want to be married and want to be a good wife, I'm telling you, here are the things you got to do in order to have that. And I care enough about you. And it's hard for people to understand this. I care about some of these women more than they sister circles do. Like somebody who don't know them has more care because I'm going to tell you the truth. Anybody who don't tell you the truth don't care about. I don't care how long y'all known each other. If they're willing to let you ruin what could be great in your life, there was no possible way that they actually love you. So I'm going to tell you the truth. If you have a bad attitude, I'm going to tell you have a bad attitude. If you are pushing your husband away, I'm going to tell you you're pushing your husband away. Same thing with the men. If you are cold and you're not tender to your wife, I'm not going to look at you and say because you're paying bills that this is enough to compensate for the lack of tenderness that you're not giving her. I'm going to tell you, you're doing great in this area, but that wife, that the soft feminine woman, that has to be cultivated and protected. If you want her to stay soft, you have to protect her softness. And the way you do that is providing tenderness in the areas she needed. Just because you're not cheating on her doesn't mean you're being good to her, right? Just because you're paying the bills doesn't necessarily mean you're being good to her. Like, in addition to the prerequisites, you have to invest in her as a woman, as your lady. And that means sometimes making time to make it about her and to speaking to her and to make sure that she's confident in who she is, right? It takes this. Make sense? Yeah. You feel what I'm saying, y'all? So it takes all of these different things. And so again, like my perspective is I'm including, and I'm not just speaking as if women are not getting it, because it would be dishonest for me to say that. Like I said, the amount of coaching that I do now, the amount of women who have started off with I hate him and I'm gonna block him, to now those same women are are protective of Sir Hale. It showed me that if you're saying something from a place of genuine care and compassion, even if the person doesn't show that genuine care and appreciation for it now, if it's genuine and they're reasonable, they'll be back later. That makes sense. So I salute to all of my black women, salute to all the ladies, all of my brothers. Like, we're done fighting against one another. We have to start working to reconcile with each other. And we're not going to waste time on men who don't want to be husbands or who don't want relationships. I mean, that's not my particular topic. And then the same thing with women. We're not going back and forth. I don't have time for that. Okay, that makes sense, y'all? Y'all be good? So I'm going to be doing some more lives. My goal is a couple things. I told a couple people who I really care about. I'm working on some huge things because, like I said, I'm getting back into podcasting. But I feel like I found my calling. And when I stepped out on faith and I said I'm going to make this a business, it's like my calendar started to fill up. And so now we're working on not only doing this just as a podcaster, but my goal is to do this on a larger scale and to really impact the culture with what we're talking about today. I believe in relationships. I believe in love, and I have not given up on my black people. I have not done this. I ain't giving up on anybody. With the right coaching, with the right support, with the right honesty, I think people can change if they want to. All right, y'all. Listen, everybody who's tuned in, let me know where y'all listening from. I see the Lost in Translation podcast is in the building. Salute to you. I see Pookie Hybrid is in the building. I see the Intentional Quiet Storm is here. Again, I saw Travel One already. Good to see you. I saw Tez earlier. Chaos Rain was good. It's good to see you guys. Let me know what you guys think about this stream. Again, I didn't have the sounds. I didn't have any TikTok videos. I didn't want to come to you guys to simply entertain today. I really wanted to say something meaningful. What's up, Scam? Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Dustville, Texas. It's good to see you. You think still good to see you? Like I said, my goal is to provide substance. My goal is to provide substance. So, last thing, I hadn't been live because my channel had gotten demonetized, and I had to wait 3 months before it did. So my memberships closed down, the super chat shut down, but everything is back up now. So if you guys want to become a member, the memberships are open. You can start at the lowest one to just show your support. Super chats are open. And then Lady Hill, if you're online, I have a link to my link tree if you guys need relationship coaching. I'm very reasonable, very affordable. Use that link, book me. I promise you, you'll leave better after that. All right, guys, it's been real. I appreciate you. I love you. If you guys appreciate this stream, do me a favor, hit the like button and leave me a comment after this video ends. Please take a few moments and leave me a comment and let me know what you guys think about this stream. All right. Until next time, Sir Hale Speaks is out the building. Much love to everybody. We'll talk with you guys again soon. Peace.